today's spotlight topic, and that's creating a simple Excel Docs invoice using our new Excel Docs configurator. Now, along with this, it does take a little bit of Excel work. Some of you guys are Excel whizzes, probably better than me. So we're going to go through kind of how to manipulate your Excel document. This isn't an Excel tutorial. However, we will go through some basic stuff. And then we're also going to go through how to use our Excel Docs configurator in a basic way. It's not going to go too far in depth into all the different nitty-gritty cool use cases that we have. Todd had a whole video about that in the past, so you guys can definitely go to that. And Justin, if you want to post that one in the chat. But today we actually have a fun little backstory to why we're doing this. Over the weekend, I was with my grandfather, and I was actually able to see, I'll hold up for the camera too, a really, really old invoice done with a typewriter. And I thought this was really funny because this is the type of stuff that we generate on a regular basis.
Oh, hold on. Really, really, really old, Matt. To you it is. All right.
All right. Sorry if I poked some nerves there, everyone. To me, that looks like ancient, but
yeah. They had an ink well too when they were writing that.
Well, I thought it would be a fun, thing to kind of replicate this within Quickbase and Exact Forms Plus. Obviously, in today's day and age, this is something that we can do very easily digitally, and these are things that we make on a regular basis for you guys, our clients, and you guys make on your own. So we want to help you guys kind of make this template and then generate it with Quickbase data. Sorry if I poked any nerves there, everyone.
Your screen stopped sharing too, by the way.
That's okay. We're just going to throw back up. I wanted to make sure I got the right screen up. So prior to this call, I put together the most basic Excel sheet I could think of, which was mimicking everything that you just saw there. I started with a blank, brand new Excel sheet, and I did this, just in about, 20, 30 minutes quickly before the call. And I went through each one of those different sections on that sheet that I just showed you. And what I ended up doing was I made a few Quickbase tables to go along with that. So I'm going to go from the top here, and I'm just going to show you guys adding a new invoice. And before I go through all of that, I just want to, kind of make a note. Most of you guys already have your Quickbase set up the way you want. So before I start going into what I set up on Quickbase, I want to also mention what you would do from the juice side of things. So although I have this kind of set up already, I'm going to end up opening, and as Keith had this up before, our juicetech.com. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to log in. And when you go ahead, I'm going to log in with my user address. And I'm going to navigate to my client ID. Now, for a large majority of you guys, you're already going to have your company name at the top, so don't worry about that. And then I'm also going to navigate to Excel Docs for this use case. From within Excel Docs, for many of you guys, you have already authorized additional applications. You've set up additional tables for Excel Docs, Exact Forms Plus, PDF Stamper, many of our other add-ons, Juice Sign. There's one thing different about Excel Docs that we've changed recently, and that's the ability to use the Excel Docs configurator. Now, most of you guys probably aren't using this configurator yet. I would normally do a show of hands, but I don't know how many people are going to jump on with that. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you guys how to do this. Instead of just setting up another table, even if your application is already authorized, you're going to hit authorize new application. And again, I just want to make sure that's clear. Even if your app is already authorized to use Excel Docs, you still need to hit authorize new application.
And Matt, just to be clear, this is just to set up the new Excel Docs configurator.
Correct.
Inside of their document templates table.
Correct. Yep. Most of you guys won't have as many user tokens as we do. So, select your user token, hit next, and then you're going to hit this checkbox right here. And most of you guys have never checked this checkbox, but it says authorize only, no setup required. And then you're just going to select the table that you want it on. And I'm going to go ahead and click that one,
The application.
the application that you want it on. And when you hit finish, you're going to get a message. Your application has been authorized successfully, and that allows you to use our new configurator. So I'm going to go ahead now. I'm going to go in and I'm going to navigate to our document templates table, which many of you already have. If you don't have one of our document generation add-ons, the document templates table is really our add-on homepage within your Quickbase app. So you're going to go ahead and click on that. I have many here, but you now see on the right side of my screen already that I have this new Excel Docs Configurator button. I'm going to go ahead and navigate to my invoice statement template, which is the one I'm going to be using today. And you can see at the bottom, I have this new field, Excel Docs Configurator. Really, really important. We're going to be using this for this whole session. I just wanted to hammer home with you guys how to install that, because that is something critical. Going forward, Excel Docs has become very, very easy to use with this new tool. So thank you, Dylan, if you're on call, because Dylan was the developer working on this and did a great job. So now that we have this tool in our app, we can go ahead and take a look at how we have this set up. So I'm going to navigate back to my master table. So just like Exact Forms Plus, Excel Docs has a master table. So my master table is invoices. And you will also see the master table DBID. So for all of you guys who have Exact Forms Plus, this should look very familiar. In fact, we do recycle the same table. It's using that same template file, your same C list, same name. So not much is changing for you as an end user. But now you just have this Excel configurator instead of what you're probably already used to with the EFP configurator or the Add New Document subtable for Exact Forms Plus. So like I said, I'm going to navigate to Invoices now, and I'll just open that up in another tab. I'll close out my cloud because I don't need that anymore. And I'll go back to my invoices. So you see I have one invoice record already created. You can clean this up a little bit. Most of you guys likely don't want this on your default report. So you can, quickly, take some of these off, maybe keep one, and we'll let some of that other stuff stay just to help you clean that up. So now you have Excel Docs on this table. And this is just a sample record, but let's go ahead and add a new invoice. And again, this is probably a workflow you guys already have. But let's start from the top. If we just go with, John Doe, street address will be 3050, veterans. Come on. Still working on a shoulder injury, everyone, so bear with me. And city on Concoma is a real long one. And I might not spell this right.
You didn't.
State, we're going to go with New York, and zip code, I think it's 11779. And the invoice date I could auto populate to today, but we'll just click today, and we're not going to fill out the rest of those fields now. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And you see I have my invoice number, and now I'm likely going to want to add some items. And many of you guys have workflows just like this already set up. So I'm just going to add a few items for John Doe. So I'm going to say, okay, he wants to get a boat. Now we have a boat as a line item, and he wants a trailer. And you know what? Obviously, the boat's not going to go anywhere. He doesn't have any oars. So we're going to also add a motor too. So now we've got 3 line items here. Now this is our record here. And we can also say, you know what? This client, he's going to have a monthly billing plan. And, let's just see 27 divided by 12. Let's say he's going to pay every month. So we've got a few fields now, and you want to generate just a regular generic invoice. And we're going to take all of these fields here, essentially everything we're using, and we're going to put that on using Excel Docs. So now that we have our record, I'm going to navigate back to the document templates table, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the Excel Docs configurator. Now, one thing Dylan did with the Excel Docs configurator, which we do have also with the EFP configurator is we have the ability to make the data table right from within here. It actually opens up the tab right from within here. We don't have the ability to add new Excel docs subtable like we have here. You have to make the subtable, the data table, from this Excel docs configurator. So that's one thing to note. But this is now your master table. So I'm going to be placing any field that's found on the invoices table. So account name, street address, invoice number, etc. Any field on this table, I'm going to be identifying in this portion of the Excel docs configurator, the master table. So let me go ahead, and now that I have that, I'm going to put this to the right, and let's open back up my sample statement. So I kind of laid out the land a little bit for myself already, and I have the account, and I have some information like name. So let me see if I can scroll on over. Maybe I'll zoom out a little bit. So I can see that the account holder name is really where I want to have name. So that's B7. And I'm going to go through all of these for you guys. I know this might seem redundant, but now I just put B7 in the cell position. For those of you who have worked with Excel docs in the past, you've had to use the C list, and you've gone through the C list and you've done the colon, field ID, period, the cell, colon, field ID, period. You had to follow that syntax. You don't have to do that any longer. You can now just identify the cell on the same line of the field you're trying to put in. So street address, now we have street, B8. And just go B8. City, B9. City, B9. State is, and you can see where I'm getting this from up here, D9. And then zip, I'm going to go with a guess, it's B10. And then we have date. Let's see, invoice date. Okay, super simple on purpose. And then we're going to go H7. Again, that's found up here at the top. And then invoice number, we have H8. Now, one thing you might notice is I have tilde, name, tilde, street ID, tilde. None of that is needed at all. It's actually just there for my own sanity. So I don't even have to clear this out, I don't think, right, Keith? It's just going to write over it anyway.
Mhm.
But I like to put those in there just so that I understand where I'm going to be placing the information in my document. It's not needed. If you know exactly what cell you want to put it in, you don't need to do this. That's one of the major differences between Exact Forms Plus and Excel Docs. You don't need to identify or map where you want your fields, mainly because we're identifying the cell. The cell is telling us where we want to put it. So that's really important to remember. Just some additional stuff that we have here at the bottom. We have like the total due. So I'm going to scroll down on my list and let's see. I think we have a billing plan. So we want to put that for A33 for my billing plan. So there's A33. Monthly payment plan. Let's put that for, I'm going to go with a guess, but it's not guess, C33. And then let's see, missing a field moment. Total, there it is. And we're going to do total. And that's my last one, that's G33. And that's my last one for my master table. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to extend this back out so everyone can see again. And I'm going to hit save changes. Now, there's one thing that I didn't do, that I didn't identify here, and that's at the very top. That's the Excel sheet number. Now, Dylan, I don't know, is that necessary to identify one? I do know it's sheet 1, but do I need to identify that?
No. On the master table side, you can leave that blank.
Okay. All right. So folks, you heard it from the wizard himself. It does not need to be filled out, but I'm going to put one there anyway. Now, if you were to have, save changes, I got my red message. Now, if you did have images, you could, on your master table that you wanted to include, you could add those here. Now, I'm not going to do that right now. However, I am going to show you this data table, which I may have cheated a little bit and done it a tiny bit ahead of time, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to edit that. So as I said, it's going to open up another window for you. So I'm going to move that to the right, and I'm going to open up that Excel sheet again. So now we have our ability to see the child table. So you can see now this is the statement items. So you have to fill in a description. So we have statements right now. We're going to add items. So we have the statement items. We do know that this is going on Excel sheet 1, as I mentioned. And now we're going to identify what fields we want in this table. Now, Dylan and Keith, another question, and I believe I know the answer. Excel Docs is different from Exact Forms Plus because yes, thank you, Dylan, because you have to identify the column headers here, correct?
Yeah, you have to place them in the template.
Right. Now, for Exact Forms Plus, many of you guys are used to having us identify the actual column headers for you. So we have pre-populated the column headers where you can then modify that or override that. But with Excel Docs, you do have to kind of make your Excel table the way you want. We're just identifying the C list. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at my paper copy and I'm going to say, what field names do I want to have at the top? Because we're not really identifying the names. So I'm going to say I'm going to want date. I'm going to want product. I'm going to leave a space for, let's do costs at the end. I'm going to do pricing plan. I'm going to do setup cost and total. Base cost. Now, one thing you guys are noticing is those are overlapping each other. So this is where I was talking about how with Excel, you kind of have to make it of your own. And that's really true here. So for these scenarios, I can just manually place this out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I can grab that whole column and move it over for pricing plan to make it a little bit wider. Setup cost, I can go over and make it just a little bit wider. Base cost, I can go over and make it just a little bit wider. That's where the real differences come into play between these products. Now, the other thing you're going to see is we have identified, a very small table with very minor formatting. I'm going to show you how to extend that out as well. Other things you can do, and this is just regular Excel stuff, is if you wanted to dump a background color on this to make it look a little bit better. But we're going to keep this pretty generic. But yeah, we're going to keep it pretty generic today. So let's go ahead and save this. Remember, you have to file, save as. I like to browse and just add a new copy so that there's never an issue. And we'll call this 1.2.1. And let's go back over to our XL Docs configurator. Now, I changed the order kind of on purpose here because I wanted to make sure that I showed you guys how to add this data table. So remember, we're statement items, Excel sheet 1, description, and now we have a few fields on the left. So first things first is we're going to want to have our date field. And I'm going to go with the last modified by as my date field because that's probably going to be the last time that we had one added. So let's go ahead and make that C14.
That's not date. That's not the date though.
No, last modified by, right? Sorry, date modified. You're right. Thank you. Last modified C14. That's why we have extra set of eyes here. C14. And again, the reason why we're doing that is because we want to have it go below the header, C14. So now we have product D14. So I'm going to go back up to my product and you see I had C14 before. We're going to change that now. D14. Pricing plan, E14. We're going to find pricing plan. Call that E14. And we got setup costs. We have that in F14, that stays the same. And base costs, that's going to be in G14. We're going to put that in G14. Now, one question I've gotten in the past is, can you skip columns if you were to make a subtable here? Yes, you can. So if you wanted it in H and you wanted to leave a blank space in the middle, or even if I wanted to add a small column here, just as a line break, you can do that as well. Definitely no issue there. Whatever you have in Excel, we're going to be able to populate. So we did that, and everything else looks right. The types look right, just like with our Exact Forms Plus configurator. If you felt that the type of the field was not correct, you could change that here. We have a couple different options, but 9 out of 10 times we already identify it correctly based off of what Quickbase is giving us. So I wouldn't worry about that all too much. So we're gonna go ahead and save that, and you
So
see.
scroll down. Hey, Matt, sorry, scroll down to the bottom. Just make sure you don't have that. All right, you did last modifier, you took it out. Okay.
But you see, actually, all the fields that I included got brought up. So that's a cool feature by Dylan. Everything gets brought up so that you can see what you have in your data table. So that's my data table. And you can notice they're all in the same line. That makes sense. We want to make sure they're all in the same row because that's where we're starting from. Again, we don't have any images, so we're not going to worry about images here. Now, data grid settings, one of those is this a data table, a grid? Yes, it is. So we're going to have that checked off, and I believe that's by default. Now, max line items, this is a good one here. This is going to help your formatting. So this is a very, very commonly used one. So I want to make sure that this one gets spoken about. You can notice here, I only have 2 lines in my grid. Now, if I were to extend this out and I wanted to make sure to show all of my lines, that's totally fine. You can, have your formatting go all the way down and not fill that in. That's totally up to you. Some clients prefer it like that. They rather look more like 1985, where you have the whole sheet filled out. That's totally fine. But if you rather just have a small table that's only going to expand based off of the amount of line items or the amount of related records you're putting in, then that's preferred in this sense. So we're going to say the max line items is 2. I believe choose max line item type. Thank you for the red message. And I'm going to choose insert new rows. So after 2 lines, it's going to know to add X amount of additional lines based off of how many records I have in my child table that are related. We have 2 there. And the rest skip rows. If you hover over the little I there, doesn't seem to like to hover. Let me see if that works here. So if you skip rows for each line item placed onto the sheet, how many rows should be skipped before we place the next item? That works well for a lot of use cases, but we're not going to use that right now. And this tab subreport order is the order position in which this data table will be loaded onto the sheet with respect to the data table on the same sheet. So you are not going to need either one of these right now. And we're just going to go ahead and save changes with the simple changes made. The next, and really one of the biggest beneficial parts of this, is the query. In the past, Excel Docs, you needed to write out a query by hand. And I know from experience that that was a pain in the butt. So I'm really glad that we have this now. And it actually auto-populates the correct query for you based off of the table-to-table relationship, if there is one. So for this one, we have the related invoice is equal to the value on the parent record ID. And that's all we're going to bring back. That's all we really need. You're going to see Justin over there looking at Dylan, probably wondering why that didn't show before. And for the sort order, now this is something that should be very similar to how we have it for Exact Forms Plus. So if I wanted to have the sort order by, let's say, base cost, and let's go with descending, we could add that here as well. Now we're not going to skip records. I have max records, so I'm just going to go ahead and hit save. And then we have our subtotal and grouping session. Now this is, very, very similar to how we have Exact Forms Plus as well. If you wanted to have a subtotal of maybe the base cost, you can do that as well. So maybe I wanted to have total at the bottom, and we'll have that. Now this is pretty neat. The column that holds the label, not the column that you want a subtotal, with the column that holds the label itself. So we're going to choose F for that. And then the column to total, we're going to choose G because we want to have the label show total here. And we want to have the actual field we're totaling as G. Maybe we'll do subtotal. Just 'cause I might like that better. And subtable row shading. Sure, let's add a color in there. Why not? Wow, these colors are, we'll go with that. We're not going to do any grouping. We're not going to colorize them, and we're not going to average anything either. But for some use cases, those are really important. So we're just going to skip that for now. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And then I'm going to use this X in the top right corner. Close that out. I'll minimize this. You see that I got an update on my Excel Docs Configurator where it shows some of this metadata that I filled in across. And we're going to close this one out too. So back to Quickbase. And let's navigate back to our document templates table. For those of you who want to visit the past, you still can go back into our document subtable Excel table, which is our subtable for Excel, and see what we did there. You can now see I filled in all of these fields using the different stuff in the Excel Docs Configurator. And let me tell you, a lot of this stuff I would have never been able to do myself. So I'm really glad that we have this tool now, and you can see, kind of what we did. For those of you who are very familiar with, using this tool or using this page in the past, you can see how much easier it was to make that happen. So now, without further ado, before I do that,
You gotta upload your document template.
Yep. See, Keith, I was right there with you. I said, actually, good thing to note too, our C list updated as well. So on the master table side of things, we also had our C list update, and that's really important to have as well. I can see I already have it here, Invoice 2.1, sorry. And we're going to go ahead and save. So I have my latest version. And I'll navigate back to my John Doe record. I'll hit refresh. And now I have this Excel Docs button here. A lot of you guys know a lot of this already, but I just wanted to make sure I saved some time to go through what's going on with the parameters here. And I get these questions almost daily, so I know that this isn't, straightforward for everyone. So I wanted to make sure we went through this. I'll make sure I make it nice and big. Everything above line 6, hypothetically, you should never have to change. There's really no reason for anyone to have to change that. If there's very minor cases where people do, we would be reaching out to you most likely. So don't worry about anything above line 6. Line 6, however, that's TPID. That stands for template ID, and that's this document templates table. So you can see document template number 12, that's document template record ID 12. So we're identifying 12 there. Super simple. If you wanted it to be 11, you would have it be 11. If you wanted to do 1, you would do 1. If you want 12, you do 12. A lot of our clients build a formula field called a document template selector field, and it changes based off of what type of form you're filling out. So if it's for New York State, you want to do document template 1. If it's for Vermont, you want to do document template 2. If it's for Florida, you want to do document template 3. Obviously, your use case is going to be different than that, but that's just an example of how you can do that. Keith may have an example of that somewhere. If not, maybe that's something that we get for you guys a little bit more extended office hours. FN is also a really important field that people change all the time. FN stands for file name. And I know I'm repeating myself from other office hours, but I want to make this clear. So for the file name, I want to call this, oh my goodness, invoice document. And then it's going to have the record ID at the end of that. So we're just going to have invoice document 1 or 2. The DBID and MSID, in all likelihood, you'll never have to change either. If you're copying these fields to another table, don't. I'll just tell you that straight. Much rather you use our Juice Cloud and set up another table from there. It's going to make everything exactly the way it should. So these two fields, 8 and 9, or these two Parameters, don't worry about that. FAID, this is the file attachment field, and the Excel Docs date field. And then the real kicker, which we get all the time, doc FMT. So right now we're generating this one as a PDF. So for those of you who want to have it as an Excel, you can have it as XLSX, that's the default, or some of you may rather PDF. So we're going to keep it as PDF for now. And then again, 12 and 13 also likely do not need to be edited either. But if you wanted to maybe have this not say create Excel sheet, maybe you want to have it say create invoice. The reason why this is the way it is because this is a rich text field. All right, so let's go ahead and scroll out just a bit. We'll click our first column, last column. Well, that's a problem. Well, I'm gonna phone a friend Dylan in a bit if I can't figure that out, but I don't see anything here that's incorrect. But let's go ahead back and check out here. First column, last column. Now, Dylan, have you seen that error before?
You're muted, bro.
Sorry, I didn't see what the error was. Could you generate the document again?
Or thing? Specified argument was out of the range of valid values. First column or last column, Dylan?
Check what did we define for
Same one here. Yeah,
the totaling?
that's a good question. What did we define for the totaling? Quick debug session on call. Let's go ahead to the subtotal. We did row G. So let me pull that back up. See, we had column G here, base cost. Let's go ahead and take that out and see how that works. Okay. Subtotal row label column.
Yeah, you have to clear the color as well. There you go.
Okay. Let's try that. Okay, we'll minimize that. So it did not like whatever I did there for the subtotals. So good eye by Dylan, saving the day. And let's see what that PDF looked like. All right, not too bad, a little messy, but here's our sample PDF. So we've got some stuff going on here that, we might need to go ahead and modify, and that's going to be typical. And that's one of the things that, clients always say is that there's a lot of front end work, but once this gets going, it works perfectly. So let's go ahead and see what we can change so that this is not going to happen where I have this one line going across just there. I don't know why I did that, but other than that, obviously there needs to be a little bit more advanced formatting, and most of you guys are coming in already with a template in mind. Everyone's got their own, specific template, just like I have my 1985 Marine template over here. So let's go ahead and see how we can take that line out. But I'm going to pause for a second and ask, does anyone have any questions regarding what I've shown so far? I know I kind of said a whole bunch. All right, no worries. So Dylan, do you have any idea why it would have done that?
Not off the top of my head, no.
That's fair. Well, we'll have to check at that in a bit. And I'm not sure if that's why it took that bottom row. Well, let's go ahead and see, because it did close it up the way I would have wanted. I'm not sure why it would have been that. I always call it the next one up. And also I noticed that we didn't have a field for current. If you saw there, we had my tilde, field tilde. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And one of the things too is we actually didn't have this as a currency field, and neither was this one a currency field. So if you go back into Excel, I'll open this up, and actually identify this to be not general, but currency. So that's what you're going to want to do there. So if you ever notice that you have a cell type that you would rather be currency, you're going to go ahead and change that type to currency. I wonder if I just do this, that currency as well. Let's see. Now we're all the way up to 2.3 already. All right. Let's go ahead back to our template, edit it again, update those most recent changes, save, and let's go ahead and generate that. Generate successfully. And let's open up that PDF. So I still had that come in there. I'm going to have to check to see why that didn't happen. But you do see I have my $signs now, so that looks a little better. We're making progress there. But I'm not going to sit here and necessarily debug that unless Dylan or Keith has a bright idea to get that to go away.
You're muted.
Yeah, these are just template related changes, so it's really going to be perfecting your output. So it's really nothing to do with how Excel Docs works. So it's really just getting in here and playing around with the template to get it to look the way you want it to look.
Right. Right, indeed. As you know, I was saying before, if you guys wanted to, you could always, add some coloring to this. You can make this as, fancy as you want it. And that's where a lot of you guys do really like the ability to use the Microsoft products because you're all very familiar with them. So it's definitely important to note that. So if I wanted to have some borders here, again, I could very quickly add some quick borders. If I wanted to even do an outside border, I could also do that. These are the things, like he said, these are template related changes. Everyone's already going to have, in all likelihood, things that they want to have on their document, and they're going to come in with something. So we can 9 out of 10 times take what you already have and utilize that right away. It's just about mapping your template to have your Quickbase fields populate the way you're expecting. So let's just show that.
The huge benefit of the configurator is we take out all of that extra time it would take you to enter all of those configuration parameters and let you focus on making your template the way you want it to look.
Right. Yeah, there's just a couple of those quick highlights for you guys, as well as if I wanted to change that quickly to be Excel, you could also generate the Excel version, which I kept the secondary button there for the Excel. And here it is with all the values popped into Excel. So you can just quickly hit enable editing and get those changes for you. So that's a very quick, very simple Excel invoice. We wanted to show you guys how to do that and how to install the XL Docs configurator. That was really the kicker for the whole thing, is getting this configurator in your app. That is in the utmost importance. If you're using XL Docs, if you hope to use XL Docs, you're going to have this. So if you're a new customer, it's going to get added automatically. If you're an existing customer, you do need to add this. So please keep that in mind. If you're watching this video in the future, please make sure to add that XL Docs configurator, because it won't be there if you already have your app authorized.